Today I'm going to share with you how to create and use registration boxes when you're crafting with your Cricut vinyl cutting machine. Registration boxes is a trick that will help you line up layers of vinyl accurately. I use this technique often when I'm screen printing multicolor shirts with vinyl, but I'm also going to share how the same technique can be used with adhesive vinyl for other projects. First, we're going to start in Design Space. There are a few different ways you can create designs to cut on your Cricut. You can use the Projects tab to find ready-made projects. These are great when you need some inspiration on what to create because you can see examples and the designs are all set up and ready to cut. Or you can use the Images tab and find thousands of graphics to use in your project. I highly recommend getting a Cricut Access subscription. This subscription gives you unlimited use of 100,000 images, plus you get extra fonts. I'm going to use this rainbow graphic in my project today. I simply click on it and insert the image. Now I'm going to also add some text. And I want to change the font. You can search through over 400 Cricut fonts, or you can find a font that's installed on your computer. I'm going to use this chalkboard font from Cricut. Okay, and then I'm just going to drag my wording under my rainbow, and I'm going to kind of adjust this just a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to change the colors here just so that you can kind of get a better idea of the colors I'm going to use. Okay, so I'm going to make this a 3-color design. And now that we have our design created, let's get it ready to cut. First, I'm going to size my design to the size of the container that I'm putting this on. So I think this will be the perfect size to cut it. And the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a square, and I'm going to adjust this to fit behind my design. And this is what I call a weeding box. Adding this box makes it easier to weed the design after you cut it. Okay, so I have my design all set up and ready. Now, because this is a 3-color design, I'm going to cut it on 3 pieces of adhesive vinyl. And then to make it easier to put it all back together, I am going to add registration boxes to the corner of the design. So these are just small squares that I'm going to put in the corner of my design. And I'm just copying and pasting to add one in each corner. Okay, and these don't have to be in any particular spot. The important thing is that they're going to stay in the same location on all 3 cuts. Once I have a box in each of the corners, I'm going to select the entire design, and then I'm going to copy and paste it. And I'm going to do this one more time so that I have 3 vinyl cuts. This first one is going to be my dark pink layer, and so I am going to hide the other pieces of the design. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this layer, hiding the dark pink and the gold layers. And then in this last one, I'm going to hide both pink layers and leave just the gold. So now my design is set up into 3 different cuts with the registration boxes in each of the corners. Okay, now that I have these set up, I'm going to highlight each one and I'm going to attach. This function keeps the pieces of my design in place as it cuts. I am going to just changed my color of each of these back to remind me which color vinyl I'm going to put on each mat. So this is going to be my dark pink, this is going to be my light pink, and this is going to be my gold. So I'm going to click Make It, and you'll see that it's going to separate it into 3 different mats. And I am going to put each of the colors on my mat as it tells me. I'm going to start with the dark pink here, and I'm going to send it to cut. Okay, and now I'm going to cut all 3 pieces of the vinyl. Now that I have my vinyl cut, I'm going to weed the vinyl, taking the outside area away and leaving the registration boxes and my design. I'm going to do this for each sheet of vinyl until I have all 3 designs ready. And this is where our little registration boxes are going to come in handy. Without the registration boxes, you'd have to eyeball the placement of the layers. With this method, we're going to remove the guesswork and get them aligned accurately. So I'm going to carefully line up the boxes. So I'm going to put my transfer tape on my first color, and I'm going to smooth that on and take the backing paper off. Now I'm going to carefully line up the boxes as I press my transfer tape onto the second color. Now I'm going to repeat the process, taking the backing paper off of this layer, and then I'm going to use the boxes again to line up my final piece. And just like that, we have a multicolor decal aligned perfectly. Now you can remove the boxes and attach your decal to your item. I want to show you how I use this same process to do a multicolor t-shirt when I'm screen printing with vinyl. If you haven't seen me screen print with vinyl on my Cricut, be sure to check out the other videos on my channel to get more details on this process. So back in Design Space, I'm going to resize the design to make it larger for the t-shirt. I've kept the registration boxes and layers exactly the same, just making the entire thing larger. I'm going to send this to cut on my Cricut Maker. This time, however, I'm going to mirror the design so that I can put it on the back of my screen printing frame. With screen printing, it doesn't matter what color vinyl you use. We're just going to use the vinyl as a stencil for our screen printing ink. So I'm going to cut this on gray vinyl, but you can use whatever color you have on hand. When we weed the design for screen printing, it's the opposite of how we did the decal. I'm going to pick out the areas of the design where I want the ink to go through my screen. All 3 layers are ready to be attached to my screen printing frame. Now I'm going to attach these to the back of my screen printing frames. I happen to have 3 frames, but you can still do this with just 1 frame. You would just need to wash off your ink between colors. My design is all set up and ready to screen print. I've got it placed on my t-shirt, And now I'm going to lift up the screen just a bit to put a piece of painter's tape under the areas where my registration boxes fall. We want the registration boxes to print on top of this tape and not directly on the shirt. So double check that your tape is under each of these boxes, and we are ready to add the first color. I've dried the first color ink and I'm ready to line up the next color. This is where I'm going to use the registration boxes to line up my layers. So I'm going to use these boxes on this layer to see through the screen and line up with the pink boxes that were printed with my last ink. I'm just going to adjust the screen until all 4 boxes are lined up perfectly. And then we're going to squeegee our next color of ink. I repeat this process with the third color. And that's it. We have a 3-color screen printed t-shirt lined up perfectly thanks to registration boxes that we created in Design Space. These are 2 easy ways you can use your Cricut vinyl cutter to make some amazing crafts at home.